So in this session, we will look at the concept of navigation and routing in SAPUI5. So let us look at the agenda of this presentation. So first we will be looking at the navigation overview, and then we will move on to routing. So one of the techniques is routing itself for navigation. So we will see how routing works in SAPUI5, then we will set up routing. There are some steps, we will look into it, and then we will see two examples: routing in full screen application and routing in split screen application, that is master detail page. Now let's move on to the next slide here. So what is navigation actually? So navigation plays an important role in any of the application, be it SAPUI5 itself. So there are three ways of navigation within an app. So one is the shell based navigation, another is event bus, and the third one is the routing. So first two, shell based and event bus, are techniques. These techniques work well for intra application navigation, but routing, which caters for the requirement of bookmarking, and it could resume the application user interface from the particular state itself. So if there is a particular URL and we are navigating from one page to another, and then if in the third page we refresh it, it would again give the third page itself. But if we are using the first two techniques, if we are refreshing on the third page, it would take us back to the first page itself. So this way it also helps, this routing also helps for bookmarking. So now let's just move on to the next slide. So SAPUI5 offers hash based navigation, which is routing. So why am I saying hash based? So you could see here the URL. So there is this hash, and afterwards there is some data. So in routing, we are navigating from one page to another using the hash based navigation system. So it allows you to build single pages apps where the navigation is by just changing the hash. So if the page 1 hash system is ID 1 and the second page is ID 2. So if I just write ID 2 here, so the second page would load. So this is hash based navigation. So with the use of this, we could also use it to bookmark a particular URL, and if I just bookmark the ID2 URL and I refresh it again, the second page would appear. So this way it helps us. So why routing is beneficial to us than using other navigation methods? So why it is beneficial? So first, number one is that it enables user to navigate using the browser history itself. The second one is that it allows to bookmarking and deep links to the page inside an application. The third one is that it allows to pass on the data using the application URL. So this is the URL, and if we want to pass some data, we can pass it here in the hash system itself. So we will see the example in the next slide. So here I am just setting up the routing in an application. So there are mainly 4 steps. The first step is to define the router classes. So these router classes are defined in the manifest.json file, where in the routing section of the manifest, that is SAP.UI5 namespace is there in the manifest.json file. So here we are mentioning our router classes. This was the first step, and in the second step we are initializing and registering the routing. So this initializing part is important and the register part is optional. You can opt in or opt out. So how to initialize? So this .get router .initialize. So once you are done with this, you have to do this particular step, and the third step you have to define the routes. So where we have to define the routes? In the manifest.json file, there is this section called as SAP.UI5 namespace, and within this section we define this routing section, and within this routing section we define our routes. So here is an example of one of the routes. We just define the pattern, and the pattern is suppose first page and /para. So I will discuss about this para just a bit afterwards, and we are giving the name as this app itself, and the view name is app, and the target aggregation is pages. So in a full application, the target aggregations are always pages. So if we are using master page or detail page, the target aggregation would change to master page or detail page. So when we have defined the routes in the manifest.json file, so 3 steps are over. In the 4th step, we have to define navigation in our controller. Like if we are clicking on a button, it would navigate to the second page. So if we have defined a particular button in the view 1, and on the click of that button, it would navigate to the second page. So we are defining here, we have taken a variable named as router, and we have defined sap.ui.core.ui component.getRouter for this, and this router here, that is this variable, we are using it to navigate to the app. So this name and this name, this should be similar, and here I have written para. This name and this name should be similar. So here I am passing some data, some like ABC I am passing. So in the para, here this ABC will be go, and when I am using in the pattern, I have to write like this, first space slash, in the curly braces I have to write para. So these were the 4 steps here, and now let us just move on to the next slide, where I will explain you how to do routing in the full screen application. So I have explained 2 examples here, routing in full screen application and routing in split screen application. Let us look at the routing in full screen application. So what we are doing here is, this is the introduction steps. So we are creating SAPUI5 project, and then we have created few views and their respective controllers, and then I have maintained a component.js file and manifest.js file. So if you already have this particular structure of a program, you don't need to create this, otherwise you just create it. Now let us look at how to use the routing. First step is to initialize the routing. So you do initialize the routing, and you could also register the route within the init function in the component.js file. Now you have to define the routes within the component.js file or the manifest.js file. So if the version of SAPUI5 is less than 1.28, you have to mention the routing in the component.js file. Otherwise, you have to mention in the manifest.json file. Now we have to maintain the target aggregation as pages. Since this is a full screen application, we have to maintain the target aggregation as pages. If it were a master detail page, we would use it something else. In the next slide, I will show you what we have to mention the target aggregation in split application. Now just run the application. The first view is loaded using routing. So the first page is loaded using routing, and we will define a particular button control in the first view, and on the click of the button, I will just navigate to the second view, and that is, we will write the code on the press event of the button itself. That would do the navigation. So I have shown this using a particular video. You could see the video and make you understand yourself. And let's just move on to the next example that I will just show. Now here I have explained routing in split screen application. So these are the steps here. First, these 3 are just the introductory parts. Just create a new project and few master views and few detail views and their respective controllers, maintain component.js file and manifest.json file. So that's done, and now like the previous one, we have to initialize routing and register routing. Then we have to define the routes within the component.js file or manifest.json file itself. So till here all these things were same. Now what we have to do different here is that we have to mention the target aggregation as master page or the detail pages as required. Whatever is required, you can do as your requirement is. So these steps are over. Now what you have to do, you have just to run the application and your master and the split screen is available, and in the first master view you have to define a button, and on the click of the button it would navigate to the second master view. So this way we could achieve routing in split screen application. So you will see all these steps here in the practical demonstration.
Here we will be seeing routing and navigation in a full SAP UI5 application. So for that, let me just show you my web ID. So I will be showing you routing navigation from one full screen page to another full screen page, and apart from that I will also show you how to transfer one data from one page to another page. And so for that, first let me just create one new project from the template, and this is my UI5 application. Here I will just write demo routing. That seems fine. Next, my first view would be a root view and I would name it as app. Next, and finish. So I would require here 2 views. for routing and navigation. So this first view that I have already created, this is a root view. There won't be any data in this. So let's just create two another views. View1.view.xml, and I will also create another view which would be view2, and for these two views I have to create controllers. So this is done. So now what I will do, I will just copy this code from here, copy, now to view1. So here I will just paste it. I will just rename the path of this particular controller here, views controller, that would be view1, and that's in. Rest is fine. I suppose I will just change the page title to something else. I will not use I18, just for practice purpose itself I am just using hard-coded value. So here I will just write as view1. I will just save this, and similarly I will just paste the code in view2. I will just change the name as view2. I will just save this. Also I will just change the title name here. I will name it as view2. Now we will just write the code for the controllers here, and for that I will copy the code from app controller, alt copy, control copy, and view1 controller, here it is. I will paste it here. I will just rename it as view1 and going to save it. Open view2 controller, I will paste the code here, rename it as view2. So we have renamed our namespaces and a path all. Now what we have to do, so we have created three views here, but we will be doing navigation in these two. So what is the use of this particular view? So this is basically a root view. We will not be describing anything here, so I will be just deleting this portion from here. So this will be just, we will be blocking this particular view. This won't be of any other use. We will write this code here, display block equals to true. So that's done, and I will be adding an ID for this app that I have created here. So this is app. Sorry about that. Here I will be adding an ID, and it would be app itself. I will just save this. So that's done. So this is our root view, and within this root view we have these two other roots here, that is this view1 and view2. So our structure is almost complete. Now to define this view1, we have to code in the manifest.json file. So here we can see this is UI5, and just below the dependency we have to mention our routing. And to initialize our routing, what we have to do, we have to initialize the router in the component.js file. So here it is, the component.js. So basically these are the steps here. So here I will just initialize this. So this dot get router. So this is the first step here to initialize, to make use of routing. So get router dot initialize. So our first step is completed. So first step is completed. This is, we are initializing the routing here. So I am just saving this. Now back to our manifest.json file. So the second step would be to add the routing parameter here in the manifest.json file. So I have this code with me. I will just copy from here and paste it there. So this is the routing parameter that we have added in the manifest.json file. So I will now just make you understand what does this mean. So this is the router class that we are using. So this is mandatory one. So in the config there are two portion in the routing, that is one is the config, the second is the routes. So in the config we have saved all the default settings and all. So we are saying that our view type is XML and our view path is generally demo routing, this is my namespace, and then to view. So demo routing, then in the view we are maintained our views. So we are given a view path, and the target aggregation means, so for a full application our target aggregation would remain pages, and if we are using split tab, that is master and detail pages, so it would vary according to the pages. If it's master page, this target aggregation would be master pages, and if it is detail page, it would be detail page. So I have configured this, and now in the routes portion I have to add the routes. So first one would be view 1, that is this one. So I have given no pattern. So pattern means if we are navigating to from one view to another view, pattern would appear here in the URL. I will just show you. So initially there would be no pattern. So this is basically hashtag hash bookmarking here. So this is the name that I am using. The view is view1 itself. So target aggregation is pages. Since this is a full screen application, it would remain pages. And the control ID would be app. That is, we have used this root view and we have maintained this ID here, that is app. So we are giving it here itself, app. So I am now going to save this. Now I am going to run this application. Now you can see the first view is already loaded here. Now what we will do, we will do the route. We will add the route for the second view. I am just copying from here, and I will just put a comma here and I will just paste it here. Now we will add a pattern here, that is view 2, and the name would be view 2 itself, and the view would be view 2, and the control ID and the target aggregation would remain the same. Since this is our root view, so this would be app itself. So I am just going to save this. Now if we have to navigate from this view to another view, we should have a button or something like that. So on the press of this button, I will just go to view 2, and so I have to create a button here in the view 1. So here it is. So I will mention a button control here. I will just name the text. So I have mentioned the text here, and in the press event I will just write something on click. So that's done. So we have mentioned our button here in the view 1. So now I have to define this on click function in the view 1's controller. So here it is. I will just mention the on click event here. So here I have to mention the router and router.nav2 functionality here. I will just copy it from here. So here I am getting this router reference to router, and then based on this router I am navigating to view 2. So this view 2 name, this should be same as the as of this name. So we have mentioned in our roots this name. So this name and the name here we are giving, this should be exactly same. Only then that it would find this. So I am just going to save this, and now in our demo routing I will just refresh it, and here I will get a button. And just notice here after this there is no hash or something like that. No pattern is mentioned here. It's nothing. So if I just click on go to view 2, this would change. So we have been navigated to view 2, and if you just check here, so here it is hash, and after this hash we are getting this view 2. And where did we get this view 2? We have got this from the manifest.json file, and here in the pattern we have written this view 2 here. So if you just notice here, we are getting this view 2. So I hope this is clear with you guys. And I'm just, now what I have to do, when I am here, I have to navigate back to the view 1 itself, and for that I will just add a back button here in the header itself, and for that I have to code in my view2.view XML. So here I will just code in the page there is this property show nav button equals to true. Show nav button equals to true. So with this property, a back button would be appearing here, and on the click of this back button I have to write functionality. So for that I have to write nav button press event. So this is the press event on nav back. So this is my event's name. I am just saving it, and in the controller I have to define this on nav back. So going to my view2's controller, I will just write here on nav back. So here I can use the routing itself. I could write as in the view 1 controller as I have written hello router.nav2 view 1. I could write here, but here I will just write history dot go -1. So this would take me to the first view itself. So I am just saving this. Now if I just go back here, I will just refresh it. Now if I just go to view 1, view 2, then I am getting this arrow here that would take me to the first page itself. Let me just check the pattern. Here we are getting view 2, and if I just click on back button, it would take me to the first page itself. If I just check the again, the pattern has disappeared. So this was routing in simple one page to another, that is full screen to another full screen. Now I have to show you how to take a data from one view to another view. How to take data to another view. For this I will just go to view 1's controller here. So here I will just mention a particular data in a particular variable. Let's say ABC is the variable, and here I will just write hello hello. So now I have to pass this data from this view 1 to view 2, and for that I will just use here comma, and here I will write value, and here I will write ABC. So that's it. So this ABC contains this hello string, and this value would be, I will just use it in the pattern in the manifest.json file. So I will just save this, and in the manifest.json file, here you could see, here you could see in the view 2 I will just add a backslash, and here I will just write value. So this value would appear in the URL itself after the hash. I will just save this again and go to view 2, and I will just refresh it. So just let's see here what will come here. So here you could see this, the pattern view 2 has also appeared. Apart from this, the data also is appearing here, hello. So this way we could pass the data from one view to another view using routing itself. So we have already covered two concepts here, how to pass the data in routing and how to do routing in a particular application, that is full screen to another screen. So in the next lesson we will be looking at routing in split application, from full screen application to split application. So that's it for this video. Thanks for watching.